so glad that we started with the fireworks. Let's do sexual empowerment. What is your relationship to pleasure? Like, I'm just gonna turn it on when I go into the bedroom.
It's a pleasure moment right there. You're giving yourself permission
Yes.
to experience pleasure.
And that's why why I'm like, this is a deeply spiritual practice. Right? So the more pleasure I had, the more self-love. The more self-love I had, the more pleasure. I'm so glad you asked this question because this is profoundly part of the journey.
Something private, we learn as we go on our own in the bedroom behind closed doors.
Exactly.
We're gonna practice right now. Me as your coach, we're gonna practice. Well, let's talk about the root of why women, experience shame and guilt around their sexuality. And after we kind of dive deep into that, let's talk about how it impacts back to the self-worth and their relationships.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'll just say this. I'll bounce a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it directly affects the self-worth, especially when we're not listening to ourselves, right? If we have the good girl conditioning or we override our needs and our wants, and that directly affects our self-worth. You know, I have people be like, oh, I'm going to do things because I want to get this man's attention or this person's attention, so I'm going to perform in the bedroom. And then they're like, I didn't even want to be with that person. Or I actually felt very uncomfortable with this, and this. And then over time, they don't trust themselves. And when they don't trust themselves, it's really hard to have self-worth. And so this is a profound, like this is a big statement I'm making, but I really do believe these conditionings are like a disease. This is a root, like I said, a root problem that needs to be looked at, that needs to be held, because it affects our behavior, it affects our actions, and then often we resent, we get mad at said actions. So why? I think, like we talked about, right? I think there's many reasons. There's so many different conditioning, so many different layers. It's not a worthy cause. It's gross, et cetera, et cetera. And again, that is so directly connected to self-worth. It's so connected to self-worth. And like I said, I think a big piece of it is the self-trust or lack of trust.
Well, what I'm envisioning here is I'm actually even seeing myself, the younger self of me.
Yeah.
And I can see that I engaged in certain behaviors personally that I was trying to get an attention. I'm trying to get, man's attention. So I would dress in a certain way, take good care of myself. Now, eventually I started to learn that I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing it for someone. I like to do that. But just as much as I like to, have a nice image, I could also be totally, I want to say bum, and then go out and I'm totally fine. And I don't need that validation or that attention. I don't look at beauty, right, as the makeup and the hair and the clothes that you wear. I don't care. I could wear anything, any occasion that I see fit. Now, do I like to every once in a while get my hair done, put some makeup on, wear some nice clothes? Yeah, it makes me feel good about me. And you said it in the beginning that you kind of radiate based on what you do for like your self-image, right?
Totally.
Doing your hair, like whenever you go get your hair cut, don't you feel like $1,000,000 afterwards?
Oh, totally.
Like
totally.
It feels lighter and it's so much, and you're like, oh, it feels so good. I've never left the chair after a haircut without having a big smile on my face.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Right?
And I think it's a balance. Like what you're naming is a balance, because I think we've had such an imbalance. How do I say this? I think their adornment and the act of beauty can actually be a spiritual practice. That could be a deeply spiritual practice, because I really believe if we adorn and we honor our beauty and our unique beauty, it's like us falling to the altar of our feet, like a goddess. Like we are adorning that goddess, we're honoring that goddess. And that was in ancient traditions. And I believe over time that got perverted and we went to the other side of the spectrum.
Hmm.
And that has become, oh, I'm only worthy if I have the eyelash. I did
Yeah.
all of it, right? I'm only, oh my God, I can't leave the house. I'm only worthy if I have the eyelash extensions and a blowout and
Yeah.
full nails.
Yeah.
And so you name something so beautifully. It's like, this is a spiritual practice. This is adornment. And like we are a goddess or a rock star, whatever, archetype resonates for you, celebrating that. But you name something so beautifully. The goal is I can feel gorgeous in Oscar de la Renta dress or in scrubs.
Mm.
Like I know how to, and I always say this example, but there's an example of Marilyn Monroe, uh, back in the day, obviously, and she was on a subway train, and she said to someone, she turned to someone, I don't know if it was Arthur Miller or not, but she said to someone, and again, this is through Erica's, remix of the story, but she said to someone, "Watch this." Because she turned herself off, and
Uh-huh.
so no one recognized her. And this is her at her height of her career,
Right.
where people would have been throwing them. There's the New York City subway,
Yeah.
and she said, "Watch this," and she just and internally switched on a light. Marilyn, people are freaking out, chasing her, ba ba ba, and they're like, oh my god," whatever. Maybe they got away, and then she said, "Okay, shut it back down." No one recognized her, and
Wow.
she was wearing normal clothes, nothing crazy. And it was just, she knew her power.
Mm.
She knew how to channel her magnetism, where it's like, this feels safe. I'm going to turn it on. I'm shutting it off. And so magnetism, of course, if we do our magnetism with our glam, you know what I mean? Like with our adornment and beauty,
Hmm.
boom, like there's no stopping us. And it could be whatever, it could be regardless of what we're wearing. It's that sparkle, the twinkle in our eyes, it's how we
Yeah.
carry ourselves.
Yeah.
Really quickly, in one of my programs, my teacher said, at the end, when we would come and gather together, she's like, "I want you to dress in what makes you feel most radiant."
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're probably gonna have the idea, maybe, because everyone's, talking, I'm gonna wear lingerie and red lipstick." She's like, "If lingerie and red lipstick is your vibe, honor it, bring it. If it's a ball gown, bring it.
Mm-hmm.
If it is you wearing a football uniform, do it."
Yeah.
And people were like, "Oh, like I thought, this like pleasure archetype, this queen archetype was like in silks and
Yeah.
boas and this." And she's like, "It could be, but I actually want you to like pleasure research.
Yeah.
What is your pleasure profile, right? What is your and can you still feel sexy wearing a football uniform?
Hmm.
Yes. Can
Hmm.
you still feel sexy wearing the lingerie?" And I should say to this, I remember I worked with someone, we volunteered for this with this woman, and she was like, "What's so interesting is often we go outside in, and people say, 'Oh, I'm going to wear the lingerie and the red lipstick, and then I'll be healed, and then I'll feel sexy.'" And like I said, I volunteered for this woman's programs, and people would come up to us and say, "What did she eat for lunch?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? No, I'm
Okay.
not disclosing that." Like I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Where did
Yeah.
she get her ring? Where did she get her dress? Who blows out her hair?" And me and my friend saw this, and we're like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "Oh, there's this thing that happens in our brain that says, if I get my hair blown out like this, if I wear the dress, if I eat the gluten-free, whatever, making
Then
something
you
up,
will be like
gluten-free."
that person.
Exactly. And so people,
Mhm.
I'm not kidding, people would grab us and say, "What did she eat for lunch? Where did she get that ring? Who's her trainer?" Whatever.
Right.
Any,
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
heard
You want to copy.
everything.
But the thing is, you can't.
Everything.
It's not possible because it comes from within. It's your energy,
Exactly.
it's your confidence, it's you allowing and giving yourself permission to be in the moment, to accept pleasure, to be in pleasure at every moment of every day,
That's
right?
exactly it. And I was like,
And
this is not, yeah.
I had this vision now while you were talking with dress and all of that. And I'm picturing, when you see like Oscars or any other award show, right? I don't
Yeah.
see them often, but like when I used to, um, the ladies, beautiful, everyone is wearing a dress by so and so, and the hair and the makeup. And then there are some women that are walking down the red carpet that look gorgeous. They
Yes.
look like a doll, right?
Yep.
Dress is amazing, body, right? But then you look at their face and their smile, and you're
Yes.
not feeling it. And then you
Totally.
have someone who can wear something not as nice, hair maybe a bit like whatever, makeup very simple, and you're people are immediately judging. Doesn't she know she's coming for an Oscar? Like, why is she dressed like that? But yet she radiates.
Yes.
And
Yes.
she's walking with confidence and smiling and posing for the cameras and signing autographs or whatnot. And it's like, look at that. It has nothing to do what you put on. It's
Yep.
how you carry it. It's
Exactly.
what's inside of you that's coming out and showing what you're wearing, how your hair is
Yes.
done, how your makeup is done. You can be looking perfect, but your energy isn't there.
Yes. And I think that's why self-care in go with me on this self-care in like an Instagrammable way as like, oh, self-care, self-care, self-care can be very damaging without a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
Because people are like, but I got my, and I did this for, but I got my nails done. I got my hair blown out. I got the eyelash extensions. I put a face mask on. Why am I not healed? You know what I mean? And so I'm like, they are a tool. They
Yeah.
are a resource. They're adornment, right? Like they're, it could be like, I'm so beautiful. I'm going to do this thing. But when I was trying to, and when a lot of people are like, but I'm getting my nails done. Shouldn't I feel amazing? I'm doing this. Shouldn't I?
Mm.
It's an empty, it's empty.
Mhm.
And so the adornment, the beauty, the self-care does need to be met with these deeper principles. And I want to say something, you said something so great about like the Oscars or the award shows.
Yeah.
My teacher would always say, I can tell, I can tell women that are connected to their divine feminine,
Yeah.
their vulva, you
Yeah.
know, their pleasure, their sexuality.
Yeah.
I can beep, 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 I can call it out right away. She goes, I don't care what they're wearing. I don't care if their hair is in a bun. I don't care if they have makeup dripping down their face or if they're perfect. Perfect Botox, perfect everything. I could tell by looking at them, their eyes, how they carry themselves. Are they connected to their sexuality, their radiance, or are they not?
Mhm.
And she's like, I don't care what they're wearing. I don't care what expensive purse they have or do not have on. Doesn't matter. I could tell if they're switched on or off.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And you can like you said,
Mhm.
you can sense that. And not from a place of judgment or wrongness, but you can
Energy.
sense that exact it's an energy. It's all and this
You
is
walk
such
into the
energetic work.
room and your energy speaks. Either you're
Yes.
gonna suck the air out of the room and people are gonna go,
Yeah.
ugh, right?
Yep.
Or they're gonna go, oh, I want to get to know her if they don't know you. Or if they know you,
Exactly.
hey, they'll get up and they'll try and come and greet you at the door. It's like,
Ex
oh, you bring it out. You bring it
yeah.
out. You bring it out from inside you to the out.
Yes.
You radiate it, becomes your energy, and you impact the room. And you gravitate towards you.
Yes.
Everybody. The
Yes.
good and the bad
Yes.
and the ugly. You're gonna gravitate
Ah.
everybody because
Oh
everybody wants a piece
yes.
of you. And when I say a piece of you, I don't mean it in that
Right.
way that we're talking,
Depending. Yes.
right? But they want to be around your energy because there's something about you
Yes.
that
It's
they
so true.
want to be around,
They want to
right?
be around. They want to be. I'm
And,
laughing because yeah,
and you can
yeah.
do this wearing glamorous clothes, hair and makeup,
Uh-huh.
or jeans and a t-shirt. It is you who
100%.
brings it out. This is your confidence, your
Yes.
knowing your worth, knowing that you are valued, knowing that the makeup and the hair and the clothes isn't it. It is you.
Yes. Yes. And I think this, oh my God, I'm obsessed. I think that's why this is such a potent conversation. And people may be listening and like, oh, that sounds great. And also I'm scared because it's
Yeah.
very powerful.
Or they can say, how do
Eh,
I get there?
Right. Right.
If I were in their shoes, if I were to think myself back in the days,
Yeah.
I'd be like, but how do I get that confidence? How do I bring the insight? But how when I have problems going on in my life and how? Because what you're doing is focusing on all the negative and thinking of
Yes.
the impossible rather than on what's possible. And you're not
Right.
doing the work. And that's why you're saying how.
Exactly. Exactly. And then once you have it, I mean, it's the best. And knowing how to harness it. I mean, I was laughing because especially when I was first introduced to this work, I was like on fire. I was walking through New York City and I was like, ah, like just so excited. Like you said, I have stories and stories of people being like, are you a celebrity? Who are you? Like, I just have
Mhm.
people like, I remember you're gonna laugh, the ice cream man chased me down and he's like, who are you? I'm like, What's happening? And people being like, oh my God, like, because the energy was on
Yeah.
fire. And
Yeah.
I learned how to harness that, like the Marilyn Monroe example, right? Like, hey, you know what? I'm in a dark alley at night or I'm walking home by myself. I'm gonna turn this off. This isn't the appropriate time to do it. I'm walking down the street, everything's good. I'm just enjoying life, drinking my coffee, turn it on. Like, and I share that because I think a lot of women may remember a time, even if it was childhood,
Mm.
where they were sparkly
Mm.
and someone took advantage of that, or they felt someone try to grab,
So
or
there could
or
be trauma there. And that's
ex
why it's a trauma response to turn it
yes,
off
to
and so
turn it
that
off.
they never turned it back on again.
And that's why I was like, I have to say this because I want them to know if there's any piece of that, that there is still safety here and there's still hope, right? Like I've been through things where I was like, I can never turn it on again. I'm terrified. And that's the importance, I believe, really, of working with someone to make it safe again to turn it back on with longevity, with consistency. There can be safety here.
Yeah.
Um, but
And I think
wow, what a worthy cause. Yeah.
I think that's a great point to talk about right now is the being turned on. And let's talk about being
Yes.
turned on sexually,
Sure. Woo,
right?
so exciting.
So, yeah, you just said something that made me want to go there. You said feeling safe, right? So when with our partner, whatever our sexuality is, you feel turned on when you feel safe with your partner,
Hmm.
right? You
Right.
allow yourself to go to that place where you relax, right? And you're, for a woman, you're in your feminine now,
Yes.
and you are feeling the sensations based on whatever is happening at the moment,
Hmm.
right? So you're allowing yourself to feel the pleasure of your
Yes.
body being touched in a certain way, engaging in kissing or whatever activities is happening at the moment. I'm getting explicit now. I shouldn't be, but like it's
No,
just I'm
please.
going with the flow of it, right? Like I'm just imagining being in that moment and the sensuality and the intimacy and it's happening and you're being turned on. And that's why you have a beautiful experience when you are turned on in
Hmm.
this sexual interaction with your partner or whoever it is you're with right now, right? So you're
Exactly.
you're you're allowing yourself because you're relaxing and putting down your walls. There is nothing to be
Yes.
scared of. You're safe. It is only when
Yes.
you feel safe that you are turned on and then you feel the pleasures fully and completely.
Yeah, yes, and you make a beautiful point. You make a beautiful, beautiful point that I think is valuable for partner pleasure, solo pleasure. When in one of my trainings, we would work with something with like a jade egg, or even anything. And I remember my teacher said, "Hey, I'm going to guide you through," and it was all virtual, so we got to be safe in the comfort of my home and our own homes.
Mm.
I'm going to guide you through a practice, right? And this practice is a self-pleasure practice, and so you can.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Hello. But that self-pleasure look like you touching your head, touching your ear, touching your vulva, all whatever, right? And she's like, but here's the thing. It was like a meditation, a visualization. I'm going to go there, but the house rule is you do not participate if you do not feel safe and if it's not what your body wants.
Mhm.
So she's like, as a facilitator, I'm going to say this, but you don't just do it because I say so.
Right.
So, as an example, when she moved down to the lower part of the body, she's like, you do not just go there. You have to ask your body, taking a deep breath, is this what I want? Does this feel safe?
You're honoring
Okay.
yourself.
Exactly. And if it's a yes, great. We don't just go, what
Mhm.
like we
And
talked
that's
about with,
why I'm sorry to interrupt for a second, but
yeah,
like just I have to say this. That's why a lot of times, and I'm going to talk about men and women, okay?
yeah,
When a man does not take his time
yes,
leading up to that and from the first few seconds immediately goes there, it's a turn off for the woman.
of
And
course.
it's
It's like,
like
oh my
there's like a
gosh.
guard up. It's like, oh, okay. But then you say to yourself, that's okay. I guess I should just relax and let it be. It's okay. That's where it's supposed to go.
Right.
So you just accept it and you don't say no, you don't move their hands, you don't tell them anything. A lot of women do that, right? Not
Ye-
me, because I will tell them,
Right.
not yet.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Right, not me. But like there are women who will just
Of
accept
course.
and
Of
go with it.
course.
And now they're in a moment where they're forcing themselves to go ahead
Yes.
and experience something. And guess what? Pleasure isn't going to be there because they're
No.
shut down.
Exactly.
And the man did that by not
Right.
honoring, by not respecting her body, her feelings, to gauge where she's at, because he's going after because for him only. Because if it
Right.
was for her as well, he would not have done
Right.
that.
Totally. And
And
that's why for
I'd
me,
like to really make this clear. I know we're having a great
yes,
conversation and we're getting off topic
please.
for a little bit, but this
No.
is a very important point that I don't know if I'm gonna have the chance to talk about this again with
Yeah.
anyone. So I want to let the women out there know, do not feel that you have to be rushed and
Right.
to just go along with what he wants in his timing.
Mm.
You can guide him. You can slow it down. You have the power and he will listen to you, but you, if you're not speaking up, he doesn't know that you're
Exactly.
uncomfortable. He doesn't know that you need more time. He doesn't know that you need some more playfulness before going to the act. And
Right.
unless you
Right.
speak up for yourself, unless you demand what you need, unless you know that you deserve to have pleasure just as much as he does, you're not doing it for him. You're not doing him a favor. This is two people becoming in union, and you said it's sacred. It's spiritual work. Now, some people don't see it that way. That's fine. We cannot force people to see it that way. But just honor yourself. Respect
Yes.
yourself. It is respect. It is respect to say, no, I'm not feeling in the mood right now. Or no, let's just like take it slower. Let's take it back a bit. It's okay to do that. It's okay to slow it down. It's okay to
Yes.
say no altogether if you're not in the mood. And you don't need to feel
Ex-
guilt or shame about it.
Right. Right. And most men want to provide that, but they don't know. You know what I mean? So it's like men, and again, you would ideally want to be with someone that wants to provide
Yeah.
for your needs,
Yeah.
and that's why I really go back to the self pleasure thing and pleasure,
Yes.
because often women, anyone jumps in and doesn't even know what they want. And so I always talk about this is we've been taught pleasure is second to
Mhm.
getting love. Like there's
Mhm.
something that
Mhm.
happens, right? That it's like,
Conditioning yet again.
exactly.
Yet
Yeah,
again.
like I'll perform, you know what? I'll perform if I get this man to like me and accept me.
Yeah.
And then someone could push back and be like, yeah, but what about your pleasure? It's like, it doesn't matter. I rather have validation, love, safety. And this conversation is you can have all of the above, you know? And often that's why for me, I really fight for pleasure because I want you to know what's a no, what's a yes,
Mhm.
what's I'm willing to explore this, I'm not
Mhm.
willing to explore this. And so I think whether you're a partner or not, self-pleasure practice is so important. Because
Mhm.
again, like it's that exploration of the in this season, I don't want this type of touch. I
Mhm.
do want this. And we want to be fluent in this language, right? It's so fluent that we can do it with ourselves.
Mhm.
But then when someone else comes into the picture, we can speak it with confidence. And also, there's the tie to self love, self respect, confidence. They're so interconnected.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad that you made that point.
I want to talk about the shame
Mhm.
that is imposed on us women
Yeah.
for self-pleasure. Yet,
Yes.
yet it's talked about very openly and very normally for men. And we're going to use the word masturbation. Yeah,
Right.
I said it. Okay, I said
Right.
it. All right. So it's very easy to say, to ask him, oh, so you masturbate or whatever, or the conversations go down the road, but it's so okay. But then let this be a conversation, women with women, even women within each other. That
Of
word will never
course.
come up. Or if one were to be open about it and say, yeah, I pleasure myself, they'd be like, oh, right? Like they don't want to talk about it, and it's a taboo, and it's a, oh no, we don't talk about that. We don't, like, why? Why is it okay for men, but it's not okay for women?
I know. And I think that is all of the conditioning. Like I said, me being triggered, at that time being triggered by a woman really enjoying her food Oh my God. We feel it's a mirror. I think it could be a mirror of if someone's confidently, I have a it brings up all of our beliefs,
Well, I
all
can
of our
actually admit to
systems.
you, I can
Yeah.
admit to you, I could recall when being a child and I enjoyed a food, as I told you I normally do, and I have videos of it as an adult. But as a child, I recall being directed not to make sounds
Mm,
when I was eating and enjoying the food.
yes.
It happened to me where
Wow.
I was like, this is so good, and I was told, no, Rania, you don't make sounds like that. That's bad. That's wrong. We don't do sounds
Wow.
like these.
Wow. Profound.
And I'm telling, I recall that right now as we're
Of
speaking.
course.
As we're speaking, I just recall that. But guess
Right.
what? That didn't stop me.
Right. And the person that probably said it meant it from a place of protection. Because there's
Because that's what they
such,
believe.
of course, of
And
course.
it's just getting passed on. And that's what we're talking about, generational.
Yep, exactly, exactly.
I'm sorry, I
Eh,
cut
eh,
you off when you were talking, but
I know. I think
that
that's
came up and I
such
had to say it.
important. I'm like, oh my God, that's such an important story. This is a little bit of a sidebar, but I remember doing work with a client. She's older. She's around 76. And us doing this work, she's had so many times where she was like, oh, I'm like, what? And she's like, something similar. I have a memory of, you can't do this being slapped, or you can't. I have a memory of, getting and I haven't thought about it in 70, whatever it was, 60 years. My mom, when we went bra shopping and this and this and this, and she was like, I'm having these memories I haven't remembered since childhood, and I can start to connect the dots where some of the repression
Hmm.
came in. And
Hmm.
I think it's very confronting
Hmm.
uh hearing self-pleasure from a woman. Like that's so like that really brings up all of our wrongness, judgment.
Hmm.
That's gross, that's masculine, that's bring all of our projections
And it's women doing
there.
it to women,
Oh, the worst offenders.
right?
That's
But the best conversations I've had about self-pleasure, guess what? Was with men.
a yeah.
They
Yeah.
love for you to sit there and talk about that. They're like, oh, tell me more. Right?
Right.
And then they want to
Right.
take it down. They go, oh, okay, well, whatever. I don't want to
Exactly.
get sensual over here. But you get the picture. You get the
Totally.
picture. And it's the women that are repressed, like you said, and they're shaming other women for how dare you? Or that's
Of
not okay.
course.
That's not appropriate. And projecting their own beliefs that was
Mhm.
projected from someone else's beliefs.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're going through life living, behaving in certain ways that is not even true to us.
Right.
We're just
Right.
following what
Yeah.
everybody else thinks is right and is okay and is appropriate and is good and is nice, and the list goes on.
Exactly. And I think underneath there's so many things, right? But I think under the core of a lot of it is fear.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people live their life of like, well, I did this out of fear, so you have to too.
Yeah.
So
Like,
you have, right. And it up from a place of, oh, I'm protecting you. But there's so much deep conditioning that it's like there's another way available. And again, that class that I was telling you about, right, where we all dressed up, some
mm,
people in lingerie, some in dresses, some in football gear, whatever. And they said, we were with just women, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And they said, okay, we finally feel a little bit safe, right?
mhm,
And we had to work through sisterhood wounds for many weeks. Like, let's work through the sisterhood wounds. But then there was kind of an understanding of like, we're all in this pleasure thing together. And let me tell you, those relationships are so deep because we
mm,
can go there. We can have, like you said, we can have those like really nitty gritty conversations like, whoa, okay, we've created safety. And
mhm.
what the teacher said is after time, safety has been set, now we're going to bring in men. And it was like, what? Like, what? Like, we created this like sacred container.
Yeah, now
What
you
is
don't want them
this?
in there.
Right? Like, what is this? And it was like, okay. She's like, look, she prepped us, like, okay, what's going to happen next? And it was beautiful. And what was funny is I felt like such a healing after that. But then again, if I was in this energy and I went on the street, the judgment was more from the women that weren't doing this work, right? The women that were doing this work, it was like firecrackers
Yeah.
together, right? Like we were
Yeah.
like, wow, like just empowerment, etc. But it was such an interesting. There's many movies about this, but there's a movie called Dangerous Beauty, and the lead is a courtesan, but she's in her Cliff Notes, takeaway profession, etc. She's in her radiance, in her beauty, in her, and because of that, they were like, "Witch, you spelled all of the men," and she's like, "No, I didn't." But you're you charm them, you're a seductress,
Mhm.
and the men actually were like, "No, she didn't," and it was the women that were like both were scared of her and loathed her and also were fascinated. Like, what
Mm.
do you have? Like, like both like, oh my God, you're disgusting. And there was a lot of religious conditioning in this film. It was in Venice under, Christian, whatever. But,
Okay.
uh, like, you're disgusting, repent, etc. But also like, but tell us. So there's this like
The
push pull
curiosity,
dynamic. Exactly.
because
And
that is the truth. We
right, and
are curious human beings and
right.
we like to explore, as you said
So
earlier, but we suppress it because
yeah.
it's what we've been told, because that's the appropriate, so we can fit in,
Yes, of
so we don't
course.
get judged,
Of
and all the
course.
fears. It's a nice salad.
It's a beautiful salad. It's a rich salad with lots of different things. And like you said, there's a core belonging wound that I really had to work through because I was like, I worked through this, and it's like, oh, there's a fundamental primal, I'm scared I'm going to be kicked out of, call it what you will,
The
community,
community, the
tribe,
tribe,
this.
whatever. Yeah.
Exactly,
You don't want to
exactly. And
be
it was like
ostracized.
100%. And so it was that I had to really work through. Really being seen in this work and being expressed, I had to push up against
Hmm.
those things and those contracts, if you will, with my family, though we're very
Hmm.
close, with my friends. I'm breaking and I'm changing those contracts.
Hmm.
And so I'm really glad that you voice that because yeah, that's a fear too of like, man, I'm scared. I'm just gonna. And here's another thing too. I think why there's curiosity often from women is because we've had moments of experiencing it.
Yes.
And so it was like, oh my gosh. Okay, no, 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 no. Shut it off. Shut it off. Turn it off. You know what I mean? So it's like we've had these moments of magic and radiance and alignment. And then it's sometimes we get spooked and we get freaked out. It's like, shut it off, put a lid on it. And so I think that's why there's often a push-pull dynamic as well of like, tell me more. Ooh, that's bad and wrong. I'm interested. Like that's why that happens often.
Mhm. I want to
Totally.
switch gears a little bit in our
Please.
conversation and talk about intimacy.
Yes.
A brief stop at a station. If you have a story to share and feel called to tell it, if you want to share your expertise on this show, please send an email to guest@healingtrain.ca. To join me on a journey of healing and recovery, connect with me. My calendar link is in the description. This show is proudly sponsored by Say It Out Loud GG, led by the inspiring Judith Diaz, an avid change maker and passionate advocate for speaking up and raising awareness. The Healing Train podcast is honored to have her support. Now let's get back to the show. Ties in with what we are talking about. But
Absolutely.
there are misconceptions out there
Right.
that intimacy is strictly related to our sexual encounters.
Right.
Okay. And and I know that that's absolutely not the way we are intimate. Intimacy goes way beyond that.
Mhm.
I'd like us in this episode to debunk those beliefs, and perhaps we can list the different types of intimacy that we
Yeah,
can
well,
share with our audience today.
please, the first thing that I'm thinking is, oh my gosh, this conversation that we're having is being really intimate with ourselves.
Oh my
Like
God, I
that's the
love
first,
that.
right? I'm like, wait, hold on. First stop. First stop is genuine intimacy with ourselves.
And you and I are being intimate right now too.
Absolutely, absolutely. 100%.
Because I'm opening up to you and you're opening up to me. and I'm being authentically me, no walls, no judgments, no nothing. And it's a give and take. And that's why the conversation is going as beautiful as it is.
Yes, exactly. And the more it's like pleasure. It's like more of this than equates to the traditional intimacy that we think, right? So how we talked about before, the more mundane pleasure, us drinking the tea, the more it feels safe to open that pleasure sexually. This is the same, right? The more intimate I can be with myself, the more intimate then I can be with you, the more intimate I can be in the traditional way
Hmm.
that we think of, right?
Hmm.
But it really starts from within. And
Yep.
that's emotionally, physically, spiritually, across the board, mentally. That is like really being, knowing, honoring, respecting ourselves on a deep level.
So let's take one by one,
Sure.
if we may,
Yes.
and briefly touch on
Briefly.
what does it mean to be intimate, and then choose the one you want to talk about, and we'll take it from
Yeah.
there.
Sure. Let's go physically because I think
Yeah.
that's like I talked about physically, right? How
Okay.
we talked about before. With self pleasure, is this a yes or a no? I mean, we could, you know the deal. We could spend hours on each, but I'll make it
Yes.
brief. So physically, knowing ourselves, be physically is also being embodied versus being in our head, always living off of brain, brain, brain. Physically is where am I? Am
Mm.
I breathing? Does my body want this touch? Is my body hungry? So that's physically knowing what's going on and being deeply embodied.
Mm.
Mentally, what are my thoughts? Like I think, I want to make, I'm making something up, this much a month. But really, I have deep
Mm.
thoughts around why I'm not worthy of that or why I'm scared of money. Do we have that intimacy with ourselves on a brain level, mentally, like a mindset level? Do we know what we think, how our brain is wired? And again, it's not from a place of perfection, but are we familiar with, oh, these are my patterns? Oh, I like to catastrophize. Like, are we familiar with those brain patterns?
Mm.
Um, Emotionally,
Mm.
are we willing to express ourselves? Are we willing to express both bliss and rage in a healthy way? Do we bypass? Do we like to, I'm not going to deal with that. Are we someone that's like, I'm feeling some emotions. I'm going to be overstimulated and just like while I'm getting ready to scroll through TikTok and then put on a video, like I
Mm.
bypassing emotionally. Do I not want to deal?
Mm.
Um, and then spiritually,
Mhm.
what does that look like for me? In whatever capacity, right? Like spiritually, am I following what was regurgitated to me? Is that my truth? Do I genuinely believe that? What's my path? How do I think about this? What resonates for me? What makes me feel at peace? What inspires me to be the best I can be, et cetera, right? So it's like all of these different avenues. It's like really being very kind, compassionate, but sober with ourselves and looking, where are we?
Mhm.
And it's both a beautiful thing, like, oh my gosh, like I'm so proud of myself. This is fabulous. And then also looking, I can look at myself and say, oh my God, Erica, you're so strong. I'm so proud of you. And I could also look at my mental and say, because some of my trauma, I often catastrophize and I'm
Mhm.
working through changing that. And I sometimes am, when I'm scared, I go to the worst case scenario. Great information. Let me try
Mhm.
to change that or be aware of that
Mhm.
when it comes out in relationships. So I think all of these different facets, it's like, can we be intimate with with that? And then I'll say this, right? There's a quote again from Dangerous Beauty, the movie, and it's I'm gonna butcher it. No, I might not. Let's see. It's to, uh, to know pleasure. No, to give pleasure is to know pleasure. And what that means is to really be with someone, right? Like, and to be, like we said, like not just jumping in, but to like really hold someone through their pleasure journey, be with them, to give them pleasure. You got to know pleasure because you got to kind of be an expert in like, this feels good. This doesn't, communication. Like when you know it so well, you know how to hold someone. And that's the same with intimacy.
Mhm.
Like if you know how to be really intimate with yourself and be like really sober with, okay, these are the thoughts, or this is what's going on. I'm being very avoidant of being in my body. You can then go with someone and be like, let's go there, because you're so intimate with yourself. There's no problem doing that with another person.
Mhm. Mhm. So, on the topic of sexual intimacy,
Yes.
let's talk about orgasm.
What a hot topic.
Okay. And I know many. women in my life who I've had conversation with, and they opened up with me and have admitted that they have a hard time reaching orgasm. They don't even
Sure.
know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like, what? Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean you don't know how? Right? Like, it's not something you can teach them, but I could try to describe it to them. And it's like this, and you feel this, and they're like, yeah, but I stop myself. Like,
Mhm.
I I stop. Like, I feel something is about to happen, and I stop. So excuse me, I wonder if the lack of orgasm comes from also the conditioning of not giving ourselves permission to be in pleasure, or is it there
Yes.
is more to it as well?
Yes, I agree. I think that it might be multi-layered depending on the person.
Mm,
And I think a big chunk of it is conditioning
mm,
and fear.
mm,
And it's funny, during my one of my many trainings, my teacher was like, "We're actually going to take orgasm off of the table. I don't want you to orgasm." And people are like, "What?" Like she's like, when you do your
That's what I
homework,
signed up for the course
yeah,
for.
exactly. What is this? And she's like, when you do your homework, which is so funny that this was our homework, but like, you're not, I don't want you to. And
Mm,
she's like, look, if it happens, okay. She's like, but we're actually not going for that.
okay.
And we're like, why? Like, what? And she's like, because I want you to know pleasure. And so often we're so obsessed as a society getting to the, oh, did it
Mhm,
happen? Is
mhm,
that it? But like, there's
mm.
so much stress around it that we often don't even know the journey
Do it.
to exactly.
Yes,
And so
it's
it's
the
like, did it?
journey to it,
It's a
not it.
journey. Yes, and she's like, that's a byproduct. Like she's like, if it happen, like again in the homework, if it happens, great. She's like, but I actually want you to get so lost in the
Yeah,
sauce of the pleasure that
yeah.
you're actually like, oh, that kind of was irrelevant. That was, and so that is really interesting too. Sidebar is when I was doing a lot of these pleasure practices, I learned because it was like, okay, come on, come on, come on, go, 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 go. Let's go. Let's try to move through this quickly. I found, oh, I'm really trying to rush pleasure or rush being present in my everyday life. Like, and it didn't feel safe to fully like, no, no, let me like really fully drop into this.
Mhm,
And I was like, oh, come on. Like, this feels and it actually felt physically painful of, oh God, I have to do like, it was like, who's complaining about doing this as a homework assignment? But I was like, oh, I hate this because all of the conditioning. So the
mm,
short of it is I think there's so much conditioning. There's so much wrongness around it. And often we don't talk about the journey itself because the
mm,
journey itself can feel very unsafe, very triggering, very wrong. So if anyone is like, again, it's nuanced based on the person, but if anyone's like, oh, that resonates for me,
mm,
my invitation is, can we just explore the journey first?
mm.
And if that happens, we'll cross that bridge and we can talk about that further. You know what I mean? But like, can we
Right.
really enjoy the pleasure? My friend would say like one stroke at a time. And that could be one stroke on your face, but instead of da, 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 like quite literally one stroke. And that could be anywhere on your body. Like, do you really feel like I'm doing it to my fingers right now, right? Like, can I really feel my finger gliding up what does that feel like? Am I numb? Do I feel numbness? Do I feel a sharp pain? Do I feel what is that energy? Again, that one teacher, all these memories are coming back, but we got a pencil, and at the tip of the pencil was, as you know, an eraser. And
Mhm,
she's like, this doesn't, it could be what you think it is. She's like, but it doesn't have to be. She's like, it could be any part of the body. It could be behind the ear. She's like, I want you to really imagine that you're really stroking the tip of the pencil, the eraser. And instead of just like, what does that feel like? And she's like, I almost want you to imagine, um, especially like with that area, that you're not just da, ba, 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 ba. She's
yeah.
like, I want you to imagine it is if you're what is it? Gently not scratching, but like caressing your eye. You know when you have like gunk in
Yeah.
your eye, you
Yeah.
don't want to go aggressive because like it
Yeah.
could hurt your eye, right? So
Yeah.
she's like, gently on your eyelid, very, very, it's like that level of sensation and slowness.
Mm,
That feels very confronting. That really can bring up some conditioning. Like that level of one stroke, feeling one beat, feeling one moment at a time. And again, sometimes like the vibe is like, actually, I want it to be like quick and fun and hot. Great. We're not taking that off the table. This doesn't always have to look what it looks like, but this is just to add into, are we really aware of like the sensations, the presence? Are we really being present to it? And so that's my invitation, first stop shop for everyone. Whether if you're like, I'm an orgasmic beast, like I great, love it, keep it. But like, can we add a little bit more presence and feeling in your practice?
Mhm.
Because as we know, that will then also connect to pleasure in our real life. Can when you're listening to music, instead of, oh, I love this song, I always play it, can you actually hear like the string quartet in the sound? Or can you really hear like, oh, I never heard the singer, like, wow, they really have a beautiful voice. Like, does that make sense? Like, it really slows us down.
Mm.
It really has us be present on a whole new level.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I love that.
This is so nice.
I think we can continue talking on forever, and
I
this would be a
know.
really, really long episode, but I'd really like to wrap it up. And before we do, um, I want to get some insights from you, some practical tips for women out there, because this is
Great.
a major, major subject around sexual shame, right?
Mm,
We've uncovered where it's coming from, and you know, to each their own. At the end of the day, what they want to do is their journey, right?
right.
No one is forcing anyone to do anything they don't want to do. We're just talking about it here, and we're peeling the layers,
Yeah.
right? But what can you share with us for a woman to begin healing from the internalized shame and guilt around sexuality?
Oof, I love it. Uh, Many things. I'm not just saying this for a business perspective. I'm saying this because I needed a community behind me. Because like I said, there's so much to uncover. This is why I do believe in resources like coaches, whether it's me or someone else. People are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking." I'm like, "Great, go to me and I will point you to someone." I for me this mission is I would love to work with someone, but if it's not a fit, here's my friend. Like I'm really about the mission that this needs to be in the hands of
Mm.
everyone. This is a critical topic. This is so important. So for me, get your hands on some resources, whether it's free podcasts, conversations like this, books. If you can, a coach or support, critical. Critical. And like I said, conditioning is so smart because we usually break the glass ceiling and then we go back. Right? Like it's like, oh my gosh, I had this breakthrough, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna go back to safety now. And that's part of titration, right? It's like I grew, okay, I have to sit or I have to go back. And so why community is so important and support is so important is it helps us, okay, we just broke that glass ceiling.
Mhm.
We're gonna create safety, but we're gonna keep going. Or we're
Yeah.
gonna stay here and we're gonna keep longevity. We're not gonna go back and contract. That's one. Part two is here's an exercise we could do right away.
Okay.
Is I'd love for us to write your new sexual story. So if you feel called, if you're like, oh, I didn't realize, like, hmm, I think I have some stuff. If it would feel cathartic and helpful,
Mhm.
journal, process. What may be holding us back, right? Maybe like, oh my gosh, I forgot that incident with that partner actually really traumatized me a little bit more than oh, that actually really hurt me. So feel free, we could just like we could just vomit out some stuff if that helps us to be like, oh, that helps me create, connect some dots. If that's helpful, fabulous.
Mhm.
So first and foremost, let's process the junk.
Mm.
Then on a new sheet of paper, we want to write new sexual story, new pleasure story. And that's
Mm.
as if we're dreaming up. So it's like, what is the dream? Is it I relate to pleasure and sexuality from this lens or whatever it is,
Mm. Mm.
and I want us to best as possible that to be the new archetype, that to be the new vision. So from there, once we write that new sexual story, can we make a Pinterest board? Can we make a playlist? Like I want us to slowly, like, how can we stay within that energy regularly? So if
Mm.
that's becoming our new blueprint, how do we honor that? What does that person do?
Mm.
Like I said, do they listen to podcasts that support these theories? Do they read books? Do they hire, a therapist or a coach in this area? Whatever.
Mhm.
But I want that new story to guide us into the next chapter. And again, there's so many different layers with that, but that's a great first start of like, this is where I want to begin. And let that new story, let that new adventure guide us
Mhm.
into the next step.
My goodness, thank you for the tips. These are
Of
great
course.
tips, and I'm sure there's much more work to be done and dive deeper
Yes.
into it. And if a person is feeling called to do that work,
Yeah.
how can they reach you and what do they expect when they
Yeah.
work with you? If you can just walk us through what you actually do and how you work with your clients, that would be awesome.
I love that. For me, everyone's different, right? So it's such a tailored individual experience. Often I run group programs, but for me, where I really shine, I love the group programs. Again, it's can be very healing in community, create sisterhood and all of that. But for me, where I really shine and what I really love is one-on-one. Because I'm unlike and I'm not a therapist, but I'm unlike a traditional coach or therapist where it's like we have a session, bye, see you next time. I'm very hands-on.
Mm.
Of course, creating
Now
autonomy
people
where
are
you can,
thinking, what do you mean by
yeah, hands-on.
hands-on when you're talking about
Yes,
like what does
yes.
that really mean? Are
I should
you
watch my
part of
words.
this?
Yeah, what? Hands-on meaning we will do a session, but it's not like bye, see you in 2 weeks. For me, I communicate with my clients regularly. Again, we want to create their own personal autonomy. We want them to trust themselves, but I am in their pocket. So whether it's WhatsApp, Voxer, I am continuously, we're going back and forth. We're working the tools on a regular basis, right? So it's not just like, oh, I uncovered that pattern. Bye, Erica. It's like, okay, great. Like, now what do we do? And we create this, like I said, we really genuinely build this pleasure out, this sexuality, this confidence. It becomes a real pillar in our life. And for me, when we talk like really logistical, for me, my practice is a mix of talk therapy,
Mhm.
embodiment, visualization, meditation. So it's kind of a beautiful concoction of what someone may need. So someone may need, oh my gosh, I need to process talking out
Mhm.
this thing. Or, hey, I actually need to go into my body, since so much
Mhm.
of this work is embodiment.
Mhm.
We go in the body, and that looks like, closing our eyes, looking, going internally, more of like a visualization meditation.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's doing, movement, whether it's dance or
Mhm.
it depends on what everyone needs, but it's a very immersive
Mhm.
experience.
I would say
Um,
it's you're introducing them to explore as well because you've mentioned that several
Absolutely.
times. And
Yes.
yeah, there's so much work that any coach can do with someone when they come to them.
Right.
The rest is up to the individual to practice. So you lead them to the way. You can
Yep.
only lead the horse to the water, right? But you can't make him drink it. So you'll introduce them to new concepts, to different things to try out. And now they have to go and take it and try it out and then come back and share where the improvement is and or what
Yes.
came up when they tried and then peel the next layer and then peel the
Exactly. Exactly. It's like a lot. Like we do the sessions, but when they're on their own, I mean, I'm there in their pocket, but I say it's like we treat it like a lab. Like go and get information, go and research, and then we'll talk about it in the session. But back and forth over text, over voice note. Like, what did you learn? What did you get? What stories are up for you? What conditioning? It's like you said, it's that. It's not just oh, I did a session. It's an integrative,
Mhm, mhm,
lived experience,
mhm, mhm,
which I love. And for me, like I said, I'm really obsessed with getting this work out into the world. I
mhm,
think it's it changed my life 100-fold. And so I'm like obsessed, like getting the word out. So for me, I'm very big on free resources.
mhm,
So I have a podcast. I have a free ebook from Perfectionist to Pleasure Expert is my ebook,
mhm,
blog, a lot of free resources just to like slowly dip your toe in. And that's all on my website, which is wethelight.org. Everything, wethelight.org. And lastly, this is very confronting work, right? And like we talked about, it's kind of like, whoa. So I never expect someone just to be like, sign up, work one on one, go. I'm like, whoa, 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 hold on, we have to talk. You know what I mean? Like, am I in alignment for you? Can I give you exactly what you're looking for?
mhm.
So I'm very big on meeting people before diving into whether it's group or one on one. And right now I'm just doing one on one practice. And so what I do is I offer a free 60-minute session No strings attached. I really mean that. It's really no strings attached. It's 60 minutes. We do a session. Usually we go over, but we we have like a full on session. And at the
Mm.
end, if the conversation goes there and we want to talk about like, hey, let's talk about working together, great. If it's like this was great, I feel content, great. If it's like I really like you, but honestly, I'm looking for a guy or I'm looking for someone in their 50s and blah blah blah, great, let me give you a contact, right? So it's like
Mm.
for
Mm.
me, I want you to feel like, oh, we really jammed.
Yes.
My intention is you leave that call with tools, with technology that you can go out and start to integrate ASAP. So that's something I'm like, I always say to people, I open my calendar every month and I close it. It's, you gotta, there'll be a million people
Mhm.
signing up. So
Mhm.
I'm like, if that something in this conversation resonated and you're like, I'm like, take it. It's a free resource. It might not be there forever. And you get to have a really valuable session. You get to walk away, no strings attached and things that you can integrate ASAP.
Mhm.
And that's also on my website, wiederlight.org. So I say, take all the free resources,
Yeah.
and we're here to support you on this beautiful, beautiful journey.
Erica, that's amazing. And for me, as a coach as well, doing
Yeah.
different type of work, it's all about safety, I believe.
Yes,
The
totally.
the person that's gonna come and work with you, whatever that
Yeah.
type of work it is that they need to work on, like we were talked earlier, you gotta relax, put your walls down, and you gotta feel that sense of safety.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, it's not just in the bedroom
Right.
where you get turned
Exactly.
on. It's also in your day-to-day life where you're doing things and you're turned on to life.
Yeah.
And it's also when you're working with a therapist or a coach or a counselor, whatever choice you choose, you need to feel that safety and you're also turned on. You're turned on to
Yes.
come and work with someone knowing that it will dig in areas it's going to make you uncomfortable that you've been hiding from and suppressing for the longest time and you're scared to even know what's been hidden.
Right.
But you know what?
Right.
If you don't do the work, you'll never know. And you'll never have that life that you dream you could have. And to feel the feelings that you yearn to
Yeah.
have. If you don't do that inner work, you will just stay where you are.
Yeah.
And if that's what you
Yeah.
want, then that's fine. There's no judgment. But if you want more from life, then you're going to do the inner work, whatever that work you need to do. Confidence, letting go of shame and guilt about sexuality, hitting the big O, maybe. I don't know. Whatever it may be, right? So I invite anyone who feels called, who feels, hey, I think I want to do some work on that, connect with Erica. As you can tell, the conversation between us today was on fire, and I dressed accordingly, right? And if you were listening to this on just listening to it, not watching it on YouTube, I recommend that you listen to it again, but this time watch it too because of our
Yes.
energy on
Yeah.
camera, right? You don't want to miss that. But Erica, has been such a great conversation. I hate to end it because it was just so beautiful. Maybe we'll talk again soon. Who knows? Another topic. There's more to explore. There is
Yes.
way more to explore in sexuality and pleasure in that realm. So I'm sure we can come up with a new topic and we'll talk about it again soon.
Thank you so much. This was fabulous.
Thanks for riding along with me on the healing train. I hope today's journey brought you a little more peace, insight, and maybe even a few smiles. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and share so others can hop on board and benefit too. If you are on a healing journey and want to work with me, connect on Facebook or on Instagram at R2R Coaching. All the links are in the description. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss a stop on the healing train journey. And until next episode, keep on healing you.